So 2 years would pass by. 2003 we come to. And at the time, the whole metalcore sound was starting to become, at the time, it would become maybe the biggest metal subgenre out there. Because Killswitch Engage put out a fantastic album in Alive or Just Breathing. Or also around this time, Trivium formed and put out their first album. As I Lay Dying would get to Metal Blade Records and make a masterpiece of an album, Frail Words Collapse. And Shadows Fall would even have a great album in The Art of Balance around this time, and All That Remains would start picking up legs. Same with bands like Bleeding Through and Atreyu. But for Avenged Sevenfold, they wanted to stand out from the rest of that pack. So when we get to Waken the Fallen in 2003, it was released on August 26, 2003, they would have a lineup change. They would get a brand new bassist in Johnny Christ, and Synyster Gates would become a full-time member playing lead guitar. And with this album, pretty much it's still a metalcore album, but they really would start to showcase other styles, like traditional heavy metal stuff, speed metal, even some thrash, and even with some of their longer songs would show a hint of progression in their diversity with their musicianship skills. But with this album, it definitely was the big album that was a breakthrough for the band, because it gave them a hit single, Unholy Confessions, that would be on regular rotation on MTV Headbangers Ball at the time when it was just revived. And it's a fantastic song, but you got other... Really, on this album, there is no bad song, in my personal opinion. For me, this is my favorite Avenged Sevenfold album, because it is the album this was the album I discovered the band from via the NASCAR Thunder 2004 soundtrack when the song Chapter 4 was on there. And by the way, that song is a thrasher right there. Really, really heavy, very fast drum fill at the beginning. It was just fantastic. But you even have some, and also the big keynote difference, really, one of the keynote differences, actually all the keynote differences between Sounding the Seventh Trumpet into Waking the Fallen is that with the addition of Synyster Gates playing lead guitar, you get more guitar solos, and the production was top-notch. They were working with Andrew Murdock, a.k.a. Mudrock, who did work with Godsmack in the past. So he did the production of this album, and the album sounded glorious. And also, the biggest difference, more clean vocals, and M. Shadows' voice improved in both the growly, screamy kind of stuff and the clean stuff. So M. Shadows definitely had a big improvement with age, 2 years going by, and having a better voice by this point. And also, when you have songs on here such as Eternal Rest, Desecrate Through Reverence, and Clairvoyant Disease, you can definitely tell this band really loves Iron Maiden. Because there are certain parts on this album that sounds like you're listening to Iron Maiden. There are certain parts where you sound like you're listening to Metallica. It just definitely shows that they're showcasing their metal influences loud and proud. Bands such as Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Dream Theater, Iron Maiden, Sabbath, Priest, Zeppelin, countless bands in the heavy metal realm, Sepultura even being another example, because they mentioned that they listened to most of those bands during the time of recording this album. But then when you get to the two-part epic, I Won't See You Tonight, Parts 1 and 2, those are the songs where you can definitely tell they were starting to progress musically, because you would have the pianos involved, you would have some orchestral arrangements, and part 1 being 9 minutes long at the time, their longest track, definitely showed that these guys are great musicians collectively. Whenever they get the chance to write a long song and do it well, and then it goes into part 2, which starts off as a really heavy thrasher piece, and then you would get parts that would be from part 1, and then it would end off very brutal. But Clairvoyant Disease is a great example of epic quality to what Avenged Sevenfold would eventually do on later albums, with epic quality, some very dark lyrics that involve certain dark subject matter. And Clairvoyant Disease is definitely the track, in my opinion, where it sounded like you were listening to Iron Maiden. And also because the song title, the Clairvoyant off of Seventh Son of a Seventh Son from Iron Maiden, Clairvoyant Disease. Any hint right there? But the song Radiant Eclipse, in my opinion, their heaviest song of the album, and probably, in my opinion, the most underrated song that Avenged Sevenfold ever wrote, because you can tell a little bit of a Gothenburg melodic death metal influence on the song with the guitar sound and some of the vocals involved. And it just is one of those tracks that just sticks to your head, and the riffs that come in are just so impactful, and you just can't help but just bang your head to it whenever it comes. But for this album, this was, like I said, the breakthrough album for the band, and it's my personal favorite because of the fact that this album really showcased what Avenged Sevenfold was going to eventually become on their next album. And speaking of that next album, we're going to see how 2 more years passed by. We get to 2005. We get to what people would say their best album, their most popular album, and in my opinion, it is their best album. Next time, we talk about City of Evil. Stick around for that.